6 seconds. Ella putting Brother R.A. on the air. I just want to make sure we got sound. We got sound? We good? Can you hear me? That's number one, Ella. Tell me, can you hear me? Alright, I'm just going to assume we're on the air. This is Brother R.A. We good? Yeah? Okay. Alright. And where are we? This is Brother R.A.'s show. And where is Brother R.A.'s show? We are here at CCTV. Yes, that's outside. What a lovely day today. And ask and ye shall be given. And what happened? Brother R.A. asked for a co-host on the air, and I got Brother Ken in the house. Brother Ken, here we go. Now, yes, last week I dealt with reading the Tao and blah, blah, blah. And maybe we'll get into some of that. But this black man right here said, yo, all right, I see you at the library all the time, and you just acknowledge me and keep on going about your business, and you never stop to talk. And us black men, we really don't have time for one another. We're always so individualistic and so caught up in ourselves. And actually, Ken, what was your question? Finish it off for the audience. And there's your mic, so make sure they can hear you. Just speak loud enough. So,
in this context, Brother R.A., it's my conclusion that black men stayed in a pretty severe state of peril in the United States of America.
A severe state of peril? Explain that for those that don't know what peril means.
By peril, I mean that the norms in the United States have evolved such that it's very likely for black men to be arrested, be incarcerated, be imprisoned, to be underemployed, to be undereducated, and those kinds of conditions for them to be in. And so I consider that a great deal of peril compared to the average population in America for black men. And so that compels me to want to unite with black men, find out what their perspectives and perceptions of the social reality are, and to strategize together to improve our condition.
Improve our condition. Now, just for the audience, it's here, but we did not partake. I might during the show, but as of right now, I'm sober. And dealing with the state of mind of black men, and here in America, that's triple K.
Of that I know what you refer.
So,
and could agree.
We agree. There's one point. Brother R.A. got a point. We got an agreement.
We do.
Now, one of the conversations I've been dealing with the audience, and I may have posed this to you, are we as black people, are our thoughts contained? Do we have freedom of thought? One of the things I'd like to definitely point out too is I've been watching I Dream of Jeannie, because the cable caster John, he was like, no, I'm not a Bewitched fan, I'm an I Dream of Jeannie fan. And I'm just thinking, when I was growing up, and maybe for you too, we only had Greg Morris in Mission Impossible. As a black male role model. And with the I Dream of Jeannie, I'm noticing that they made it a luxury or made it self-esteem to become to join the military, fly an airplane. And we're talking about America, and black people sign up and register to fight for America and call it my country, 'tis of thee, when you come home from war and they don't take care of black people, or do they? What are your thoughts on these particular issues and completing the circumference of who we are and as black men? Are our thoughts contained? Are we ruled, controlled, and dominated after 400 years of psychological mind fuckery? Yes, I'm saying that on air.
So I would use the word constrained versus contained. That from the moment that black people were imprisoned in Africa, put on slave ships, brought over across the ocean in shackles, to being sold in various slave markets around America, to becoming slaves, to become tortured, beat, lynched, and various things of that nature, black men have been extraordinarily constrained in what they think. And I also would submit that I believe that black men are watched in a very vigilant way concerning the things that they think and say, in terms of how they express what they think and they say. That liberty for black men is very different than liberty for white men, white women, and black women, even in terms of owning land, owning business, owning our own bodies, being free from various violent attacks and things of that nature.
Interesting. Here, let me go ahead and read this. This is once again the Brother RA calendar that I hang in my kitchen, and a history of racial injustice 2018. Can y'all see that in the glare? Gotta tilt it down, make sure y'all at least see the image. And here's the other image. Now I have a joke about this too. It's not really funny, but in one of these DVDs I was watching, it was more than likely the Boondock Saints. You know, the mob boss is trying to make one of his underlings that are in that clan, a group of upper echelon white men. He says, "Yo, tell me a joke." He's like, "I'm really not that funny, but here's one." In dealing with I Dream of Jeannie, so you have the wish. Any wish that you want. There's a black man, there's a Mexican man, and a white man. And so the genie says, "Okay, black man, what is your wish?" He's like, can we get all the black people back to Africa? Your wish is granted. Ask the Mexican man, "What is your wish?" The Mexican man says, "All the Mexican people back to Mexico and have their own and do whatever. Your wish is granted." Ask the white man, "What is your wish?" He's like, "What? All the niggas fixing Mexicans are back out to America? All I need's a Coke." All he needs is a soda now. Okay, so dealing with our story. And today's date is the 20th of June, 1940. The 20th of June, 1940. After NAACP members try to register to vote in Brownsville, Tennessee, a mob of white men retaliates by abducting and lynching local NAACP Secretary Albert Williams. Yesterday, 1963, NAACP Field Secretary and World War II veteran Medgar Evers, who was assassinated by white supremacists, is buried in Arlington Cemetery with full military honors as thousands mourn. So, who are we as black men? What is our role and responsibility? We're talking about trying to complete, and you came say, "Yo, all right, why you always just acknowledge me?" I mean, I thought it was good that I at least acknowledged you, and I just didn't.
I think that's far too little. What I mean by that is my observation that when it comes to advanced mathematics and who's in the math departments at major universities, they're almost completely non-existent that black American men will be on faculty in the math departments. in the physics departments, in the engineering and chemistry departments. And in order for black men to be in those departments, I think there has to be a lot of engagement about very complex ideas. So I don't want to just get together and BS. I want to talk about things that I think require a lot of conversation, a lot of critical examination. And I think that's where black men start to gain greater value within themselves and in a unified group.
Okay.
That's my motivation for desiring more discourse between black men, one to another.
More discourse between black men. And you're talking about the math and science and dealing with numbers. Now, Brother R.A., of course, my audience may be aware, but I'm going to pull you in the loop, Ken.
Thank you.
I think last week or the week before we dealt with the love train. And if you can see that, that is a plus sign with each aspect of the plus sign evolving into a square. And the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so I look at that particular trinity and plus sign. When you talk about mathematics, I'm just thinking about how the ancestors would convey a message 7 to 10 generations down the line.
Does that mean any particular message or any message whatsoever?
Well,
are you talking about a particular message?
I'm just saying, let me ask you.
Mm-hmm.
You have a child, you have children, and you don't know which path your child would take, but all you have to communicate is to write in stone or build an edifice or a building or something like that. So how would you communicate self-esteem, self-confidence, belief? How would you communicate that to 7 generations down the line?
I would continue to re-emphasize things that are important.
What is important?
Well, it depends on the context around what to eat, when to eat, how to cleanse oneself, the importance of sleep, the importance of work and exercise, the importance of how one conducts social interactions with others, like what are the rules for those kinds of activities. Those are the kinds of things that I would try to emphasize and rehearse and come to some conclusions within myself and my community, and have my child reiterate that they understand the importance of those ideas so that they could pass them on to their children.
Absolutely. And when I look at this particular image, if y'all can see that, beyond the plus sign, looking at it, we're looking at the horizontal line being the female, the vertical line being the male. And so the area, the 4 90-degree angles that make the square of the mother, and the area of the father, the 4 angles that make the father, and opposite the union of the mother and the father, we have the diameter, which is just that one line. And when I look at this one line, that is me as an individual. And you talk about how our ancestors communicated. So in building the pyramid, dealing with that triangle, just this aspect inside here, just the triangle, that would be a pyramid. And within the pyramid, there's a step pyramid in Mexico. There's the Great Pyramid that's on the back of your dollar bill, the top of the pyramid that's on the $1 bill, which has the liquid pineal gland emphasized as the pinnacle of the pyramid. And this is being used, our ancestors communicating to you and I. Move up and understand your individualism. Don't be individed, but when you are that one, you have a balance. And we have liquid in our glass. Liquid can never be tilted. We have that liquid in our pineal gland. How do you convey this type of cerebral information about? I mean, you have your numbers, you talk about eating, but the masters have died or whatever, but who is here to interpret this message and raise the self-esteem after 400 years of psychological slavery? And I'm just confused as Brother R.A. You say, I walk past you, but I'm studying and I'm trying to be that spirit or tap into my individuality, not be individed, but tap into the one and reach that level of balance. And then I could have that diameter and have this child, and that child be the square, and each one take this message and pass it on. Do you feel or see or hear anything about any of this information? What is your retort or response, Ken?
That the diagram that you've drawn there seems to me to be a symbol representing man, woman, man, their unity in a child. In terms of some of the other things that you referenced, self-esteem, importance, lessons, priorities, I kind of think that's an oversimplification for how those ideas are trying to be conveyed generation to generation. The ideas of priority, self-esteem, what are those ideas? What are the symbols of those things? And how are those things given to the future generations? By what means are self-esteem, priority making being translated or being understood so they can be passed on into the future?
Now, under white supremacy, I mean, dealing with 400 years of psychological enslavement, and we as black men are a threat to, and we've had this discussion too. I mean, I will say that you and I are melanin dominant, and white folks are melanin recessive inbred mutant albinos with a calcified pineal gland. And if everyone melanin dominant were to copulate with somebody melanin recessive, every child would be a Tiger Woods or a Halle Berry, or that it would be a melanin dominant child. Can you agree to that? That if everyone black, we could make white people become extinct?
My answer to that is that this work has been done by Nellie Fuller and Frances Cress Welsing in the ISIS papers about there being 9 areas of people activity, education, entertainment, economics, labor, law, politics, war, where there are 9 areas of people activity. Creswell argues that all those 9 areas of people activity are dominated by white supremacy racism. For the religion is one of those areas of people activity. They're dominated by white supremacy racism to make sure that black men do not procreate with white women, with women who are considered white, so that there can be maintained on earth a group of people that can be referred to as white.
Do you believe or think, we've had this discussion, but on air, are white people black folks' children?
In the sense that humanity emerged in Africa, most likely by people who were melanin dominant in Africa, and then spread out around the world. Civilizations of humanity spread out around the world. That humanity's been produced by black people. Yes.
Okay, so with humanity being created by black people, that means the black male semen had to unite with the black female egg. And the black female egg, with her carrying that child for 9 months and produces life or a human being, do you think it's black man's responsibility to uphold the black woman?
In my effort to
Take your time.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient.
Take your time, because you're on Brother RA, and this is my world, and you're just a squirrel having a piece of my nut.
Good enough.
Okay, but go ahead.
Should the black man uphold the black female? I say that's a complicated enterprise in the sense that black men are born in bondage. And I infer what I'm saying to you from reading Frederick Douglass's My Bondage, My Freedom, where he chronicles his experience as a child growing up in Maryland, I think it is, from 6 or 7, 8 years old, where he comes to the realization that his grandmother, who's raising him in this cabin with a few other children, doesn't own herself. Or first, she doesn't own the cabin that they live in. He comes to that realization, and he's surprised by that. He thinks that the cabin that they're in is her cabin, and they own it. He comes to the realization that no, she doesn't own that cabin. She doesn't own herself, and she doesn't own them. He comes later to the realization that all of the fathers of all these children play no role in any of these children's lives. Their role was primarily or merely to breed them and then to go to work for the slave master. So these realizations, and this seems to me, as Douglass suggests, is a condition that's been normalized in the slave enterprise. That black men's primary role is only to breed and not to play. They have no role as fathers, as parents, as husbands.
So the white man is the father of the black children.
Yes, and in terms of a parental role. So given that this is black men's primary condition in America, I don't know how one would ask the question how a black man is going to uphold black women. I don't see that being there being much of a way of a viability that black men are going to uphold black women given their condition in America.
Now, if y'all can see, can y'all see this particular image? This is the image that I was showing earlier, but it's just on the internet, and it's on brotherra.com. So once again, this is the black woman who is the foundation of humanity. And if you can, just like in this particular image here, this particular image here, the woman, the foundation of humanity, and she procreates with the black man. And if the message that I receive from this is, it takes the two, but the area of the mother and the area of the father equal the area of the child. So all the full ramifications of whoever the mother is and all the full aspects of who the father is are given to you and me as the child. We as the children, it's our role and responsibility. Now, you talk about accolades or scholarship, and I have an issue or a problem ascertaining a BS. What is BS? More bullshit? Or what is a PhD? Bullshit piled higher and deeper, or going to Harvard or MIT, where I say these white people are our children. But if we understand the inner essence of who we are, and so coming back to the original question, the start of the show, not many people can handle this conversation, Ken, and understand I'm one who reads the Tao and am searching for my undivided, or me pulling myself together, dealing with the America and all the white supremacy and all the bullshit as a black man I gotta contend with, I have to limit my conversation because not everyone can hear what I'm saying.
So here we are in 2018. However, in 1844, 1848 in Maryland, in Virginia, in Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas,
Down south.
black men in those places in that time are held in bondage. They're not, from what I understand, they're not in a position to do anything other than obey the slave master's rules, and to some extent try to make some unity between themselves so they can rebel against that rule. Thus, in a continuation of that process till 2018, when I see Brother R.A. passing by me, I want to engage Brother R.A. into some conversation about how he perceives the social reality he's in. Listen to me share with him how I perceive the social reality that I'm in. Confer with him about strategies to improve those conditions. That's my motivation for wanting to engage and confer with Brother R.A. and other black men who I see in the community.
I mean, and please, folks, acknowledge the shirt, Brothers on the Bluff. And I know being a quote-unquote native Cantabrigian and having matriculated here near Harvard and MIT and blah, 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 I myself am a little askewed. And, you know, I went to Morehouse. I chose Morehouse to go to school because Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went to Morehouse, and I wanted to follow Nana's desires and be a minister because she was a frustrated black woman who ran away from South Carolina picking cotton, worked up in the shipyards in Maine, building ships for World War II, and but she wasn't respected as that melanin dominant black woman who was able to minister. So I'm the first. She had a child with my grandfather, who she considered, he was 99 3/4 white. So but that's the only had the child and left him. I don't know anything about John Fuller. I don't know anything about him from down south. She came up here, remarried, had brought my mother up. My mother had me, my Nana. I'm her first son. And so I'm trying to fulfill Nana's dreams. And so now I'm trying to be the minister and engage or figure out, understand how do I am quote unquote reverend right over there, where y'all can see that church, that white church right over there, Union Baptist Church. Y'all can see that in the screen. But
so you mentioned earlier, you asked me the question, should black men uphold black women? And I asked the question in reference, in my answer, with what? What do black men in America have to uphold black women? I asked that question. I also asked this question also, to what extent are black women in America endeavoring to uphold black men?
Good questions. Now, number one, in finding myself, in understanding the level of communication, look at how the one is drawn from top to bottom. And so I mean, even how do you spell individual? Do I continue to be divided, or do I become the one and understand the yin and yang? So that's my message to you, Ken. What does a black man have to offer black women? First of all, number one, black men have to acknowledge their own divinity, their own spirituality, and tap into the ancestral spirits. And in reading the Tao in previous shows, and those that are frequent watchers of BrotherRA.com, I read umbilicus. And, you know, you focus on your dantian 2 inches below your navel. And your navel is your connection to your mother. Everybody has a belly button, and you can focus on the ancestral spirits and connect with all of the energies prior to you. And if you just stand still, and that's my point, Ken, we as black men, if we were to stop, take time for ourselves, and once we raise up our self-esteem and self-confidence, then we as black men would know how to revere, honor, and uphold the bearer of our children, the black woman, the foundation, the one who carries a life in her for 9 months. In prior shows, I talked about looking at the number 6. 6 is the 0 at the bottom of the stem. And we move from right here, you and I coming together. We're the 6. We're encompassing the full sphere to black men consciousness and growing up. And then at 9, 9 is the sphere at the top of the stem. So we're raising up, we're moving through 7 and 8. And what is 8? Two
spheres, circles.
Exactly. 360 degrees of who we are as divine, tapping into not only what our melanin recessive inbred mutant child's logic and rationale, but we can't have a white man teach us about our divinity because they have a calcified pineal gland. And with a calcified or hardened, rock hard, or they don't have the sensitivities or emotions that you and I can have. And so that's my message to the audience and other melanin dominant individuals is if we take time for ourselves and see ourselves as the one and stop observing an energy outside of self, and that's why I keep talking about.
I'd like to share with you some things about
yes.
myself.
Go ahead.
For me, in September
1:32 in the clock, but go ahead.
Of 1994. I should start a little bit before that. In April of 1994, I started doing push-ups. Initially, I started doing sets of 20 push-ups. By May, June, I had gotten so I could do a set of 52 push-ups. By July, August, I was doing multiple sets of 52 push-ups. And I realized, well, if I do 20 sets of 52 push-ups in a day, that's 1,000 push-ups a day. And so from April the 4th of 1994 until April of 1997, wrong dates. From September of 1994 until April of 1997, I averaged 1,694 push-ups a day, 7 days a week. I'll repeat that again. 1,694 push-ups a day, 7 days a week, from September the 4th of 1994 until late April of 1997. In order for me to do that, I had to take time for myself to consider, am I going to expend my energy doing push-ups at that rate? I decided that I would do that, and I did do that. It so happened that there was a period of time that I was incarcerated. However, after I lost being incarcerated, I became liberated from incarceration. I thought, well, now that I'm not incarcerated, I can earn money, buy my own food. And if I'm not working a job that's so laboriously difficult that I can't do push-ups, I will continue to do push-ups. So I continued to do push-ups. I got so that I could do 1,000 push-ups in under 30 minutes. That became easy enough for me to ask myself, if I go out and do push-ups by a chin-up bar, every time I finish a set of 52 push-ups, if I do 6 chin-ups for 20 sets, I'll get over 1,000 push-ups in and over 100 chin-ups in under 30 minutes. I found out that I could do that. So that gave me some realization that I could take some time for myself, and I could use that time for myself to think about something to do. And in that instance, it was that kind of physical exercise. Now, I kind of think that that's somewhat extraordinary. I mean, I say in hindsight, I don't find many people who are going to say that they would do 1,000 push-ups a day on any particular day, let alone every day for 2.5 years. I also say that people who are onlookers to a person doing things like that might say to themselves, when it comes to that particular activity, that person seems to me to be pretty disciplined. So I confer from that, or infer from that, that I have taken some time for myself, and I've used it for those particular endeavors. I also journal. I've been journaling since the mid-1980s, and I'll make as many as 10 entries a day about things that strike me as noteworthy. They might be just something that I've thought, they might be something that I've observed, something that I've read, or something like that. So I've been doing those things as well, which takes some time for myself in terms of reflection, introspection, critical thinking. So I do take time for myself. However, like you, Brother R.A., a black man in the Cambridge community, I noticed that black women in this community also walk past me. They avoid making eye contact so that I can see the eye contact and then say, hello, how are you, to initiate some sort of interaction. They avoid that. And so in terms of trying to start a relationship, start an acquaintance, just so that there can be some conversation, there are behaviors that black women engage in Cambridge and in Boston and in Somerville that make it almost impossible to even get an acquaintance.
Hello.
Yes, precisely. So when you say to me, there's an importance for black men to uphold black women, I start looking for where's the starting place. I'm a pretty physically capable person. I hope that I'm somewhat intellectually capable, but none of that seems to matter. And so in order for those things to matter, I look for some amount of unity among black men so that there, due to numbers, due to common principles, value can be had between black men and be promoted to others.
I agree. And I mean,
thank you for that agreement.
I've been practicing Tai Chi at RoxburyTaiChiAcademy.com, and Master Heej Robinson, a 76-year-old black man, has been showing me an interesting path. And what I'd like to share with you, Brother Ken, is when you meditate, I mean, it's more about mind over matter for me. And I'm just going to share with you, because we got about 20 minutes left exactly. And I'm going to just take a few minutes where I'm going to tap into my liquid pineal gland, or tap in to a level of spirituality, and you can participate and join, or you could just observe. But one of the things I'd like to share with the audience and you, sober, not on any other substance, but we have the potential as melanin dominant with the liquid pineal gland of tapping into Father Nature and tapping into the universe being that one verse. There's only one verse. You and I are brothers of this H-U-E, humanity. And as
I agree.
Human beings, it's like, where do you begin, Ken says. So I say, begin, tuck your pelvis, straighten your spine, lower your shoulders, level your chin, have respect for yourself, and in not only push-ups and chin-ups, that's in the physical arena, but I'm dealing with, okay.
Are you suggesting that holding one's spine erect
That's your antenna.
It's also not a physical activity?
That's a physical activity, yes. And sitting in the edge of the chair, and where you can tilt your pelvis so that all of your spine is receiving the energy of the universe. And I know many folks is like, oh, he's crazy, I can't deal with him. Click, click, they changed the channel, but that's all right.
I'm not going to say you're crazy, but I'm going to say I'm a volunteer that I realize I can get up each morning about 4 or 5:30 a.m. and knock out my 1,000, 2,000 push-ups every morning. That tells me that my back is pretty erect. It's pretty typically kept in pretty good condition.
Okay, and that's the physical level, or the denotative level.
Well, sure, at that level, yeah, there's that case. But when it comes to meditation, since I keep a journal, that says something about me consulting my intellect, my psyche, being concerned about what's happening in those spaces or in those activities as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, journaling, writing is important. I mean, they stopped teaching penmanship. I don't even know if children learn how to write their name as opposed to print their name. But we as black men, we have a responsibility. And where does it begin? You have mind over matter. And when you use your spine, or think of it as an antenna, and you straighten it, and you reach a higher level of relaxation. So as I have my feet shoulders width apart, my knees at a 90-degree angle, sit in a chair or standing, not having any joints locked, and I close my eyes with my chin level, and then I go deep within myself, within a soft, easy breath. I don't know if many of y'all can hang, but I'm just going to share with you how I do tapping into my divinity and reaching my infinity. Not only on the denotative level, the connotative level, or the connotations of a word, the innuendos of a word. I might be saying it one way, but meaning something else. And then the abstract level, and allowing all the heaven energy and earth energy to gather within me. So, I close my teeth and lips, all inhale through the nose. Return. That's just the yin yang, and just allowing myself to relax as a black man and not worry about the stress of living in America or white supremacy or melanin recessive, inbred, mutant albino, but I allow my chi and energy to go down to the core, the crust of the earth. If this is the core of the earth, and I allow my chi to rise up from the core into me, allow the heavens energy, and then what I think, I talked about I Dream a Genie at the beginning of the show, and Bewitched, she twinkled her nose, I Dream a Genie did that, but you and I as melanin dominant black men, we have the ability with the liquid pineal gland to use the laws of attraction, dealing with electromagnetism, or however you wish to describe it in the mutation ways of conversation. I'm talking about we have something, an ability that's far above and beyond what is naturally taught. Can you respond, or what is your thoughts about that?
I think that there's some partial truths to what you're saying, especially as you use this nomenclature, the liquid pineal gland and the calcified pineal gland, and that black people have a liquefied pineal gland and white people have a calcified pineal gland. I look for confirmation of things like that in the literature. By that I mean, something that's important that you know about me, but your audience may not know about me. I'm an atheist.
Okay.
In 1978, I was reading the American Atheist magazine. I subsequently got my hands on a copy of Atheism: The Case Against God, and realized that I wasn't agnostic, that I was atheist, that the notion of a God didn't seem to me to be meaningful, didn't seem to me to be realistic, useful in any way whatsoever, and thus I became an atheist. So I'm into defining things as clearly as possible for the utilitarian part of language use and understanding.
Okay.
I could agree that I think that black people, melanin dominant people, have that dominance in them, in their physiology.
You can't agree to that.
Yes, I can agree with that.
Okay. And I'm just gonna, if you can agree with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick second to deal with 138 in the Tao and share with the audience scholasticism, if you will, dealing with, you talked about God and atheists and so on and so forth. Scholasticism, ocean inside a skull cup, seeking the universal code in letters. The mind is like a flower on icy water, an eye within the petals. What's that word? That's petals, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm reading. I was colonized, and I'm reading the colonizer's English.
But that is petals. I read that as petals. You read that correctly.
Okay, so I'm just saying, melanin liquid, I could go, and folks could be understanding that, but I'm using English. So, the intellect is one of the thorniest problems for a spiritual aspirant. One cannot do without it. Indeed, it is essential. And yet, one cannot allow it to remain totally dominant. The intellect must be fully developed before it is brought to a point of neutrality. Unless this is done, it will act as a block, and there will not be any ultimate spiritual success. Scholarship is thus an important first step. Education is a means of gaining access to the conventional world, of satisfying our curiosity, and of avoiding superstitious tendencies. There can be no talk of delving into philosophical mysteries if one has not even satisfied one's curiosity about nature, civilization, mathematics, and language. But once mental cultivation is achieved, one must focus increasingly on a part of the mind that is far beyond the scholarly. The intellect uses discrimination, categorization, dualistic distinctions in highly sophisticated ways. By contrast, spiritual contemplation involves no discrimination, no categorization, no dualism, so it has very little need for scholasticism. It is pure action that requires the totality of our inner beings. It needs pure involvement, not mere study. The proper use of the intellect is to give it free play, develop it to an extraordinary degree, and yet leave it behind when spiritual action is required. A sage knows how to balance and combine both.
Thank you for your handshake. But which one of these did you read?
Scholasticism.
Okay.
So, balance, I brought my level. If y'all can see the air bubble, y'all. Here, let me go ahead while you look at that. I'm going to show the audience this here real quick. You can go ahead and do what you're doing. I'm just going to try to show the audience the air bubble. Can y'all see the air bubble? And only when the air bubble in the liquid is it balanced. This is not balanced. This is not balanced. It has to be the air bubble. And we have that potential with our liquid pineal gland to tap in to the full ramifications, the full sphere, the full realm of consciousness on the denotative, connotative, and abstract. And this is where, Brother R.A., and so why I pass you, I stay in the abstract.
I want to reread something that you read.
Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
There can be no talk of delving into philosophical mysteries if one has not even satisfied one's curiosity about nature, civilization, mathematics, and language. That particular statement there, one has not satisfied those areas, satisfied in particular those areas about nature, civilization, mathematics, and language. At what point has one satisfied that? And is that individual to every person when that satisfaction has been met? For nature, mathematics, and language, and civilization.
So you are using, you're dealing with the details, or once again, when I make reference to the definition of the denotative level, the connotative, I mean, this is all in dealing with the, as far as I'm concerned, I would say dealing with the minutia, but more importantly, to tap into our divinity, our spiritual, I mean...
But that says there that that can't happen until those other things are satisfied. It explicitly says that. And
what I'm sharing with you, Brother Ken, is if we sit still, allow our chi, allow our energy to unite with the core, the center of the earth, being specifically the original human being, being melanin dominant with a liquid pineal gland, and allow that energy to rise up through your feet and the baby soft spot in the crown, allow the energy, the heavens energy to descend within. You can unite with this environment and put the details depending on...
And you're saying that that will satisfy one's curiosity for nature, civilization,
absolutely,
mathematics, and language.
And I mean, when I'm talking about focusing, allowing the Earth's energy, if I visualize myself at the core, laying on the crust of the core of the Earth, and the core of the Earth is where the melting rock takes place. And if I imagine deep within my soul or within myself, dealing with the crust of the core, of the center of the third planet away from the sun, and I unite with Earth and understanding the sun being melanin dominant, I'm a child of the S-U-N. And I allow the heavens energy of the sun's rays or the frequencies or sound or whatever it is, I allow myself to be calm where I focus. I can not only feel my heartbeat, but I hear my heartbeat in my stillness and reach a level of calm and divine. This is your spiritual. spirituality, you dealing in the essence, and all answers, as far as I'm concerned, will come to you, my brother. And that's what
You feel like that's true for you.
I feel.
I
Like
don't
that's
feel like that's true for me. I'm an atheist. So for me, I feel I need to go
An atheist is defined as
someone who does not believe in God. Someone
Yeah.
theist is God. So A means not or against, and so or not. A means not. So atheist is not God or against the belief in God.
okay. So dealing with you being an atheist, now we got 2 minutes left. Dealing with your own individuality, dealing with you being the one. I mean, God.
I mean, I'm one among many.
You are.
As far as I perceive things, I'm one among many other ones.
And
And for me, I need to go discourse with accomplished mathematicians, honestly and confidently. And if I feel I can hold my own with them, physicists, engineers, linguists, and the such, then I feel like I've satisfied my curiosity in those areas. That I'm okay in those areas. Then I'm willing to move on beyond to those other things in terms of uniting with the all and the oneness of things, letting myself just go, free of the constraints of the mind, as to some extent as that suggests.
all I'm suggesting to you, Brother Ken, is you are a divine energy. God told Moses, I am that I am. And all I'm asking is more black men to see that they are. And I got 15 seconds. I wish to make reference, not only did I read the Tao, but there's African Origins of Biological Psychiatry, Anthony Browder's Survival Strategies, Changing Images of Psychology.